swept away. And life's a long time to waste. So I spend most of my evenings watching other people live my dreams. They're painting pictures on the back of my eyes from the.
I'm Mia, and I'm 9. I'm Violet.
Thanks for joining us tonight. Nimmer Kaur, Martha Lee, Haley Meredith, Maximus Paul.
Planning with these folks and hearing their ideas and their
Excellent, excellent. So I have. Donna Carper, Andrea Martinez, Jose Loera, Steve Munoz, Lucio Brito, Lavetta Ward, Rudy Loero, Leela Patel, Susan Sheldon, Omar Rodriguez, Greg Wayne, Scarlett Ramirez, Laura Mancado, Carlos Pizarro, John Fink, Al Coco, Jamie Cabrera, John Bliss, and Shirley Bliss. So who wants to utilize what they know and be brave and tell us something that they loved about the Citizens Academy? Any takers? You guys are already up here. Everybody's already staring at you. Okay.
You know I will. I just wanted to thank everyone that presented. I know there was a lot of hard work that went into this. I gave up, I'm sure, a lot of hours to do this. And I was already impressed with the city, but getting to know really what's going on, amazing. I'm just so proud of the city, and I'm grateful to be here. Thank you to everyone. Oh, and a shout out to Brian Kim for bombarding my email with all of the presentations. Thank you.
So I think we would be remiss to not acknowledge that this doesn't come together without the expert tutelage of now Assistant City Manager Justin Tucker, who has somehow community that you live in. And I think that moving forward, this is a great representation Okay, last presentation for the night is on Tree City USA. So I would like to invite Ann Turner, Community Services Director, to provide the presentation. Ann Warden, come on down. The city of Corona has already planted 2,000 trees since July 1st, 2022. Thank you.
Well, it's really great to work together with community members, planting 3,000 trees for the year.
We're blossoming here in Corona. Things are changing, they're transforming, and they're being made more beautiful by trees. Moses, how many trees are you planting over the next 5 years?
14,000.
Together, we're creating community and blossoming and transforming. This is just with something, but we are thrilled on behalf of the Arbor Day Foundation to present you, the Corona City Council, with some very big honors. So the city of Corona was last a Tree City USA in 2015. And because of your commitment to reforestation, because of your commitment to our urban forest, and because of what you have done in the city of Corona, we have planted 3,000 trees this year. We are the only city in the United States, in the whole United States, that is planting 3,000 trees a year for the next 5 years, with 15,000 trees coming to Corona. So Moses, would you come up here? Moses and his team are leading this effort. He worked for many, many years to get this urban forest management plan here and supported. And each and every one of you deserve this. So first, I'm going to give the mayor the plaque that says you are a Tree City USA. And then what I'd like to say is, for each of you as residents and members of the Corona community, we want to help unfurl, if you would, and just kind of each of you hold a little piece of that. That'd be great. This is the Tree City USA flag that will be flying at the Mountain Gate LMD. So look at this and wear this with pride. This is an incredible honor. We are one of 3,600 cities in the United States that's a Tree City USA. Into Corona, north, south, east, and west, to acknowledge that we're a Tree City, and every consecutive year that we're a Tree City, it will tell you how many years we have been a Tree City. So congratulations to the Corona City Council for a Tree City USA.
Dr. Turner and her team, when you volunteer to plant trees, we dig the holes. So it's planting, it's not digging, so don't be afraid. It's all the holes are pre-dug. So sign up, volunteer, join early, join on.
And I'll buy the mayor a little bit of time. In your neighborhood, you will love it when you have the shade in those hot summer days, and it'll add curb appeal and value to your neighborhood. So it's good for all of us. Thank you again.
Thank you. That way I'm less out of breath when I start talking again. Okay, so Miss Meeting Minutes?
Mayor, we do not have any speaker cards for meeting minutes.
Okay, do we have a motion? And is there a second?
Motion.
I'll second.
Okay, please vote. Okay, that passes 5-0. Moving on to the consent calendars. All items listed on the consent calendar are considered to be routine matters, status reports, or documents covering previous city council action. Items listed on the consent calendar may be enacted in one motion with the concurrence of the city council. A council member or any person in attendance may request that an item be removed for further consideration. And it looks like Councilmember Casillas will be recusing herself from item 16. and Councilmember Speak will recuse himself from items 15 and 19. Would my colleagues like to pull any items for discussion?
No, but I just want to note that we're recusing because we live in those LMD zones.
Okay? 10. Okay. Ms. Edwards, do they need to step out for the vote, or can they stay here?
No, they do not. They only need to step out if the item is pulled for discussion, but it has not been pulled, so they can stay in the room.
Okay, so please vote.
All right.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Is there a motion?
Mayor, I made a motion electronically.
You guys are pushing buttons and I'm not even catching it. Good job, guys. The next mayor is going to have a well-oiled machine. Okay, those items pass. Yeah. All right. Okay, moving on to communications from the public. Ms. Edwards, oh, sorry. This portion of the agenda is intended for the general public comment on items within the... Oh, Jesus. See, I'm so glad you guys are paying attention. Well, I said next year. They'll inherit one. We're not there yet, including myself. Okay, so I do apologize, Vice Mayor. I wasn't jumping over you. Vice Mayor pulled the item number 10, so I'll let you take it away.
Can I, Mr. Ellis, can I get a staff report?
Yeah, absolutely, Vice Mayor. Thank you for asking. Joanne Coletta, our Planning and Development Director, can speak to this item.
Yes, so this is a consolidated and restated billboard relocation agreement. As probably most of you know, we currently have a billboard relocation agreement with Lamar Central Outdoor. We've had one for many, many years. And with this one, they are actually looking to do some changes to their static billboards and change them to electronic changeable message boards. And in doing so, what we decided to do was redo the agreements in its entirety and actually consolidate all of their agreements into one. And through that, we also were able to renegotiate the terms in terms of the monetary payments that are going to be paid to the city of Corona for each electronic changeable message board. Right now, we currently get about $40,000 per panel, and with this renegotiated term, we actually got that increased to $50,000 per panel. And then there's also a 12% gross receipt increase, so it's the higher of whichever. So really what we did, we updated it, and it actually ended up being a positive result at the end of the day for the city. It does not increase the number of billboards that we have in town. So that is the rule. We do not increase what we have. We maintain the status quo, or we actually reduce what we have. So everything stays the same in this situation.
But are any of the normal billboards turning to electronic billboards?
Sometimes they do over time. We only get monetary compensation for the electronic changes, but we have one with General Outdoor. They have 4 electronic panels that we get compensated for. That's a separate billboard provider. And our other large carrier here is Lamar. So this will now be 100% electronic billboards. They're going to replace the 3 that they currently have left static and move over to electronic. So this really cleans up Lamar in its entirety.
But they're static is when there's no electronics, right?
That's correct.
So they're turning the static into electronic
Yes.
billboards.
All of Lamar is, yes. Lamar has 11 structures, it has 7 structures in the city and 11 panels, and all 11 panels are going to be electronic now.
I'm just not a fan of electronic billboards. I feel like they're just too noisy. Not noisy, but just too much light pollution, and for $40,000, I just don't think it's worth it. But I'll let you guys weigh in.
I already, I guess I made the motion already, but I'll talk about my support for these boards. The ones that are, most of them are facing the freeway, of course, they're all facing the freeway. Light pollution for our residents is pretty darn minimal. And I don't have any issues with, as long as we can keep the same number of billboards and it benefits the city. We're going to be turning 4 additional billboards, correct?
3.
3, well, I thought it was 7. They have 7 now, and they have 11 total.
And 3 of them are static, and they're going to change those 3 to electronic.
Okay, 3. Yeah, I see the benefit to the city, especially we're negotiating a higher rate for all the other boards as well. I don't see I see it as a positive. And frankly, Mr. Ellis, don't we get a copy or don't we get some use of it as well?
Joanne, you want to speak to that as well? I don't remember the details of the use we
Yes,
get.
so we as the city can advertise public service announcements. However, we do have an allotted amount of minutes
Right.
that we can advertise. So if we use those minutes, then our monetary value is prorated based on what we used.
Okay, yeah, great.
Ms. Coletta, and there are guidelines to how bright a billboard can be, right? Can you speak to that?
Yes, there is. So he does have to get his permits through Caltrans, and they are on automatic dimmers. So there is a daytime lightness and then there is an evening lightness. So they are not overly bright because they do have to be cautious due to the fact that you have cars driving on the freeway. So yes, there is not a glare factor involved. Also, over the years, the LED has gotten more advanced, so you can actually see it when you're out there. These are not overly powerful. So yes, there is a standard that they have to maintain through the Department of Transportation.
Thank you.
Ms. Edwards, is there a speaker card on this topic?
Mayor, yes, we have one speaker card for this item.
Joe Morgan, 206 Grand. I want to, I want to agree with you about the changeable signs. I mean, it just trashes up the place. You see, it just, you're bombarded with these messages as you're rolling down the freeway, and it just and you kind of wonder, like, what are we doing? Are we really selling who we are, and we deciding that we're basically going to be Las Vegas with nothing but changeable message signs? It's you kind of wonder what business we're in. That this is a moneymaker selling changeable message signs, selling bulletin board, selling offsite message boards. It just seems like the wrong thing to do. I don't think that the whatever revenue we could get from it would be worth what we're doing. And to say that there's no light pollution from these things, anybody with eyeballs that drives down the freeway could say that that's not true. You have a wall washed, like wash from below sign is much more decent to look at. I understand why they want to do it, because they can make more money off of it, and they're just cutting us in a little bit of it. But it's a pretty big money maker for them. I get why they want to throw us a few. Was it the term shekels? They want to throw us a few shekels on the side. But I really think we really ought to reconsider what we're doing here and why we're doing it. So thank you very much.
Okay, so it looks like there's a motion already?
Yes, sir.
And was there a second? Because if there isn't, I'll second it. Okay, that item passes 4-1. All right, moving on to communications from the public. This portion of the agenda is intended for general comment public. Yep. This portion of the agenda is intended for general public comment on items within the council's jurisdiction that are not listed elsewhere on the agenda. Please note that state law prohibits the city council from discussing or taking action on these items. Please observe a 3-minute time limit for comments, and once called upon to speak, please state your name and city of residence for the record. Ms. Edwards, are there any speaker cards from the public?
Mayor, yes, we have 5 speaker cards for communication from the public.
Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor, Magistrates, Chief. I come here, I don't prepare my statements. I have some things I like to say, but most of all, I want to make friends because, I've had demonic influences come against me when I've made enemies. You know what I mean? Let me tell you, from the cops, for one. And I don't want to do that anymore. I want to make friends. But I think it's important that we know what we're doing, man, Like I said, that the cops don't seem to, one hand don't know what the other hand is doing. And it seems that way on purpose, man. It's like dual redundant on dumb, when you're working with the public, we should, like when I worked at Disneyland, I was the project lead for scientific systems, and we made everything dual redundant series safe, you know? But again, that's not the way you do things. And you're tearing up families. You know, I know quite a few people that have had an argument or somewhere. They're living with their family under restraining orders. I was doing it too because, as you know, I mean, I made you guys. I put you into my crime because I kept telling you I was breaking the restraining order. I was there because there was danger at my house, and a gang member that was on drugs had some demonic problems, and he's spitting murder. And I had to go to help, to save my family. And in so doing, you guys arrest me, you handcuff me, you hold me down, you let the dogs eat me, and then put me in jail for $1 million bail. When I'm not no criminal, I'm trying to help people, But nobody wants to listen to a guy that smokes pot, I guess. This shirt just tells everybody that I'm a liar. Just like I could, play this recording of Harvest when I'm trying to get them to help me serve the child molester that first child molested me, that brought this curse upon my family, Because the Bible says you can't take another man's wife without going unpunished. And even though I was a kid, she was somebody else's. And then, dang, my wife ends up doing the same thing, and then my kids get molested, and my nephew gets molested from the church for somebody else. But when I talk to them, they're like, catch me if you can. We're not giving up our child molesters. But you guys will listen to them. You get one of these nice, clean Christians without a cannabis shirt, and let me tell you, you listen to what they got to say. But nobody will do nothing for me, man. And they will do grid searches looking for me to serve me, to get me, And they've done this several times, but they won't even print no ink to help me fix this thing. It's like, hey, can you give me the papers so I could go fight them? No, we can't do that. We don't serve people. Well, you served me. You helped the sheriff serve me when the pastor was coming after me with the sheriffs, and you served me again. So anyway, you guys owed that $24,000. Now it's $124,000, but we're going to be doing this. I'm going to help you guys invest in this Cannabis for Christ, World of Science, Harvest Crusade for Truth. And so it'll be an investment,
Thank you. Good evening.
Everybody, oh, look, I can hear me. I saw the meeting earlier today on the city seal, and I wanted to thank Maddie and Don Fuller for showing up and giving their comments, and so here I am. I'm a little late, but I like the mountains on the seal. I wish they looked like our mountains. And like Jim said, maybe put a trail through them because you can see the trails from a distance. The circle is great if that path isn't underneath it because it makes it confusing. And Main Street needs to have a curve on it because that's what it looks like. And otherwise it looks like a Target, but yeah, it needs to be crooked like the street is. I love the lemons. I'm getting used to the color scheme. At first it was like, it shocked me, but I'm getting used to the color scheme. I think maybe some people forgot or maybe they didn't know that corona literally means crown, and it's missing. And so if we had a crown in there somewhere, it doesn't need to be a big crown, a small crown, but it needs to look like a crown and not like a scribble, but like a real crown, and then it would just be perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Maddie Paxton, District 1, Corona. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council members. Again, I want to shout out to Justin Tucker and Donna Finch for all that they did for Citizens Academy. I'm here to promote it. That's what I'm supposed to do for my homework. The second thing is I had the opportunity this weekend to tour the historic homes in the city, and I was lucky to do that with a couple of treasures from the city. And it was pointed out to me how there were some buildings being built that really don't agree with the aesthetics that are within the historic district. And I'd like to just make sure that we ensure that that area is preserved as a historic district. It's got its personality and charm, and I would love to see it stay that way. The third thing, and I thought Virginia was going to bring this up, is I want to do a shout out. We have somebody that's absolutely amazing on staff, and just I can't say enough about her, and that's Karen Roper. I had the opportunity last week to volunteer with Karen Alexander to bring some of the supplies out to Vista Dorada. I just want to cry about how much you guys have done for the homeless population. That is just so grateful, because none of us know if something could happen that we could wind up to be homeless. We'd have and no judgments on that, but amazing work that Karen has done, and I just really want to make sure that she gets all the kudos that she deserves. And then just my last comment is I want to thank all of those that are still involved with the RSO project. I know you're still working on it behind the scenes, and I just want to publicly thank those that are involved with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Dale Plung. On May 9th, there was a Board of Supervisors meeting. One of the topics was a dispensary at the corner of Frontage and Paseo Grande. And one of the concerns was traffic. It's a terrible location. It's not an storefront. It's just the traffic that it will induce to the neighborhood. It seemed like it was a done deal. The head of planning for Riverside County promoted it. Then you had other supervisors say things like, and this is right from Chuck Washington's mouth, when traffic was expressed, he said, traffic problems resolve themselves. And when he said that, I just went into shock. I thought about the 91, the 15, et cetera, et cetera. And my jaw just dropped. So one of the issues was parking. They only had 12 parking spots. This required more than that. I believe it was 15 or 16 parking spots. So they were looking to have parking off-site with shuttle at the American Legion. And they were going to compensate the Legion, which I'm sad they're not getting the money, but it wasn't part of the deal. So why am I talking about this here? I want to thank all you guys for your participation in both city and some of the things that affect the county. Wes Speak spent hours of his time at the meeting. Thank you, Wes. I know that Jim's been involved in some of the meetings with the group that's trying to put this in. Wes wrote a 3 or 3.5 page letter to the county, and I can't help but believe that that didn't have a major influence and impact on Karen Spiegel, and I want to thank her. If she was here, I'd say the same thing. She turned it down, and everybody else ended up getting on the bandwagon, and they turned it down. Partly because she didn't want to set a precedent. This would have been the very first time in Riverside County that a company was allowed to have their parking requirements met by off-site parking, off-site non-adjacent. There are some businesses that have parking on their location and adjacent available, but this was a quarter-mile drive. And she said she didn't want to set a precedence on that. So I really respect Karen for that. Then for what you guys have done for the community over the last number of years. I really do appreciate it. And Wes, thank you for sitting through the meeting. One last comment. One of the highlights of the meeting too, they talked about the homeless and the problem it is in Riverside. I'm going to talk real fast, 11 seconds. They talked about the homeless in the all the areas. And Corona was highlighted, thank you, Karen, with a 60% reduction? And it really went over big at the Board of Supervisors meeting. It was neat to see Corona highlighted. So again, I want to thank all you guys, all the help that you've given and the efforts you put in. And that's not in the city, it's in the county. Thank you.
Thanks, Dale. Welcome.
Good evening. So obviously I want to talk about short-term rentals again. There was a party on Thursday, May 11th. It was a complete frat party. I'm a little jealous I wasn't invited. There was loud music on a Thursday night, screaming at the top of their lungs like a frat party. They were diving into the pool with people on top of their shoulders, which obviously it's not my business, but clearly there's going to be some injuries. That's how you know you're a parent, is when you know that's no longer fun, that's an injury waiting to happen. Obviously has a bedtime, as do most elementary age children. There was no sleeping until that got shut down by the police. The music could be heard and screaming could be heard through closed windows across the street. Police were called, and I could hear the occupants telling the officer, "Sorry for the bother." Parking was yet again an issue. Over-occupancy was happening, as it typically does. They had an Econo van where 7 to 8 people filed right on out into the rental, not to mention 4+ other cars on our streets. Saturday morning, many vehicles once again were on the street for this rental. You know, I find myself spending way too much time documenting this. Like, I have become the Mrs. Kravitz of the neighborhood. I just have 2 questions. Is there any possibility of having a dedicated city employee deal with violations in the evenings during the week, during the weekends and the weekend evenings, when most of these things occur that are not police related? We're not going to call the police over parking. It's not an issue, a police issue. The other question, and this probably goes to Mr. Ellis or Ms. Coletta, what is the criteria to introduce the matter of revoking a permit? Where's the criteria? I can't find it anywhere. I know there's some miscommunication with the rules of short-term rentals in neighborhoods. There's been a lot of miscommunication, a lot of misinterpretation on my part, as well as I believe the city. But what's the criteria? I don't know at what point, how many times are we going to go through this before we consider revoking? Or even just bring it up, do some research. At what point? There's nothing in writing. I have no idea what we're doing. I'm winging it. I feel like the city's winging it. We're just all winging it here. So is there any way to find out how do we go about revoking? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Joe Morgan, 2063 Ren. I kind of, again, I spoke about this last meeting about the short-term rental thing. I think we did the short-term rental thing kind of on the fly when it came up, when everybody goes, oh, the short-term rentals in Corona? Well, I don't think it was well thought out. I don't think that's the staff's fault. I think we kind of just reacted to the thing when we found out that it was an issue, and it really does need to be looked at as an actual thing now that we know, hey, these things happen and these things don't happen, and that we know the good and we know the bad. We can make some rules to cover this. We can do this. Other communities have done it. I think the county's probably got tighter rules than what we do, which is ironic because I wanted to comment my original remarks. I want to comment. We now have 3 dispensaries open in Corona, as I understand. Another one opened up on Commerce. I'm looking for some kind of a nod. I heard about an announcement. So we have 3. We haven't had any drama. There's no bad placements. There's been no, this earth hasn't stopped turning. It's just places opening up and doing business, doing commerce. And so I think it speaks to the process that you guys did in writing the cannabis ordinance versus what the county did. I think the county just threw some crap at the wall, kind of like we did with the short-term rentals. And you could see that it worked out here because it was well thought out because we learned from the other cities. And so maybe we could learn from them. So anyways, I want to thank you and comment on that. Supervisor Washington's comments, well, he's not wrong. Traffic does work itself out. You end up starving businesses and you end up stunting economic development, and you decide to if you live in Sierra del Oro, you drive to Chino because it's too far to get to Dos Lagos because the traffic's too bad. So yeah, it does work itself out, not always in the best way. And so I want to thank you for your efforts to stop this really stupid and desperate plan. And I understand that today the county planning board or county planning commission went 2-2. Wasn't exactly a ringing endorsement of the one on Temescal Canyon. I also had the pleasure of being here today for the discussion in the afternoon about the seal, and that should have happened in this room tonight. I can't think of anything more public facing than the seal for the city, and the fact that it wasn't here is a shame. I did have somebody actually submit a design. He said, well, here's how you could do the crown, and he actually did a cool little rendering. He just whooped it up and threw it back up online. This really should be a more public discussion. And if you think that people are listening at the end of the meeting and it's worthwhile to talk about what you did last weekend, you should be talking about the seal in this meeting where you think people are listening instead of talking in an afternoon when you know nobody's listening. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Edwards, are there any more speaker cards?
Mayor, we do not have any more speaker cards. We did receive 2 written comments, and both of the comments are expressing concern with short-term rental. We'll send those comments to the full council, and they'll be included with the meeting minutes.
Okay, actually, I'd like to have those read.
Okay. So, good evening, Mayor and Council. We understand that you are currently reviewing the city's future plans for short-term rentals, and we appreciate your efforts. We also understand that it can be a lengthy process. However, we are requesting an immediate revoke and ban on the permits that were issued on Wasatch. We simply cannot live this way anymore. Owning a home is an American dream. We worked for many years and had multiple jobs to be able to save up for our beautiful home. It is our investment and our primary residence. There seems to be concerns for Oregon residents to be able to profit and have additional income. We have no idea why this is a concern for the city. People make bad business investments and decisions all the time. Sometimes business fail. That should not be the concern of the city. What should be your concern for the city is the Corona residents that have their lives destroyed because of this very active motel that has been allowed in a quiet residential neighborhood. Our work has been negatively affected since many of us work from home. Children are homeschooled and trying to do their homework, and their lives are being negatively affected. Many have their sleep interrupted many times. As mentioned numerous times, there are some homes in many of the surrounding areas at all times. Some are taking care of elderly families. Some have unique work schedules. Some drive over an hour to and from work so that they can live in a nice neighborhood and do not deserve to come home to this nightmare. Our peace and enjoyment of our homes and our lives should be a priority. Our lives matter. Even if one home is complaining, our lives matter. Numerous videos and pictures were sent to code enforcement and the council from several neighbors last weekend. We have additional proof that the tenants continue to be disrespectful and break the rules. This is totally inappropriate in this neighborhood. The police also came out Thursday night. The city, the police, and the neighbors should not have to spend this much time and energy on this one home. What is it going to take for everyone to agree that it needs to be shut down? What else needs to happen? There is simply no reason to allow it to continue. The city seems concerned about possible litigation for revoking a permit, even though it has now been 7 months of proof as to what a disaster it has been. Litigation with an entire neighborhood likely won't be much fun either. Having to continue to beg for the city to give us back our lives is not enjoyable. Please shut down Wasatch. Please shut down Wasatch down. We have all had enough. Thank you.
And was there a second one?
Yes, there is. Sorry. I was just resetting the timer. Hello, Council. The Wasatch Motel continues to be a constant nightmare. We cannot take it anymore. Our lives have been ruined. These owners have done nothing wrong, have done everything wrong from the beginning while misleading the city into thinking that they were considerate people when in fact they continued to allow their tenants to break all of the rules and be totally disrespectful. The parking has been addressed numerous times, yet tons of cars continue to park all over the neighborhood. You receive proof that they park all over Wasatch, sorry, I'm probably going to pronounce these streets' name wrong, Caribou, McCall, Stainless, and Payette. You also receive proof of a party van parked on the street with tons of people loudly exiting the vehicle with luggage. They continue to be way over occupancy. You receive proof that they continue to play loud music at all hours, and there's tons of yelling, smokers that walked all over the front of our homes to do their smoking. Smoking outside means smoking in our homes. We do not want their smoke. So many pictures and videos showing it's only one home with repeated nuisance and disturbance. People are not coming to a resort because there's nothing here for tourists. They are in their schedules to come to the meetings. Others think there's enough neighbors just being haunted by this motel and forever complaining to code enforcement and to the county. PTSD from horrific experience a few weeks back with the V. We have run out of patience and do not need or want this for another.
We'll present this item.
Thank you, Council. Thank you, Mayor and Council.
So tonight, I'm just going to give you an update of where we are in the process. That vision that will guide the master plan, and now we're in the recommendations and plan in parks with our leaves that were tacked up in all of our local parks where folks could with Corona Parks, which is great. Now, when we start to take what we heard from residents about what they'd like does kind of reflect land in the community, and so the city's just below that target at 2.5 acres per 1,000 residents. To meet that general plan goal, you'd need about 100. And the Corona Standard answers the question, what should all residents have access to? And we've concluded through the needs assessment that all residents, that is our financial sustainability park into the long term. The city, unfortunately, has to play a little bit of catch-up 3 and 4 to head towards that master plan at the end of the summer. Had the guidance of the Parks and Recreation Commission on this project. Most recently, we discussed with them.
The staff went door knocking. And I just want to take a moment here to recognize people who were not likely to respond to an online survey that was so important, which this plan is taking into effect. And they're balancing that. Possible that the community wants is just as equally as important into the plans before you tonight. That is why the commission recommended that the council move forward.
My name is Tom Munoz, and I live at 1650 Apricot Place in Corona.
I mean, I think the term is watching the sausage being made, but this is more like.
To the team. And I couldn't have said it, I mean, honestly, Commissioner, the fabric of your experiences and your
and they work as a team, and it's impressive. And if you haven't watched.
And is the PowerPoint up or not? Okay. And we started from a place where we're picking up, this is the second public. What that really drills down to is a series of back and forth conversations with what we call the Trails Working Group. So here are the projects. 2019 Trails Master Infant. That the top line here, goal, making Corona the city of trails, is trails or access points as determined by constituents of the city are semi or user trails that the U.S. Forest Service recognizes that could we provide trail network service to the Metrolinks, or perhaps we put one breadcrumb and then we did that 2 other times for the Metrolink station. So that's the lowest level of service for trail access as well. And so this is something that helps guide 6th Street to Skyline multi-use trail connection. This runs along some Riverside County, also leveraging the action that we know is already happening with the Santa Ana River Trail. So that's another reason why we're highlighting this project as a great opportunity to move forward.
To the baseball field.
And we know that
I'm curious.
We're about access into the Cleveland National Forest, as you might imagine. And so we had the city and vice versa. We looked at access into Skyline, Bedford, and Eagle Trails specifically, because those were called out by the Trails Working Group. as their priority. Image right here is us doing exactly that. And we talked about trailheads in general. So we used the trail working group's lived experience to help Ground Truth summit those access points and help us determine group. And then we explored all of these options. So as you can see, we have the Eagle Road specific unique challenges. So we looked at Crown Ranch. One example at Crown Ranch Road is that we did trails plan, and why I showed that image from Altadena is that not every trailhead needs to be a big to-do. We heard from the mountain bikers in the Trails Working Group, the Eagle Road is very steep and a great workout, and so they like it for that.
Road sign that's not accurate.
Right. We also see some city-owned land as well, so this is what we're trying to sniff out.
Excellent, thank you.
Of course, to residents and into the Cleveland National Forest. Or from the roadway perspective. So this is not an active transportation plan, but we also recognize that active transportation has a lot to do with trail use, and we want to make a seamless experience back and forth from the end user. The end user doesn't need to worry about what type of plan this is. They want to get to the...
There's a lot of funding right now.
Yes, sir. Yeah, and another thing that we can leverage as well is that, as well as the other plans that have been happening in parallel, have that in spades. And so it makes for a group I've worked with. And so with all that information said, what we're doing now is probably more up to experience. So is it very steep?
How many written comments do you have?
Just one.
Okay, we'll do that one after.
Your trails that everybody already knows about around Skyline. And your users, you put this together and you can get from the north end to the south. I thank the staff for their hard work because this is really phenomenal. This ended up being more than
Fun and the exercise and come back alive. As a landscape architect, which is my profession, and I had the opportunity to design trails myself, but not as community. And now the working group has gone to the next level and in both outreach and working with the working group. And that really is major kudos for his office also on that. So as we analyze, and I've come to think about how...
Welcome back.
Good evening again. Joe Morgan, 206-3N, of an engaged Parks Commission, engaged Planning Commission, and processes like this, the Parks Commission, but the working group, but residents getting involved actually make it a 3D picture.
You're walking in an area that you wouldn't normally see people, and I totally see the anxiety level rise.
About the forest. And now I'm seeing, these things that are in our backyard and that we can walk and connect to our own neighborhoods. So as a little tidbit. But
Is it the creepy...
prove this for ourselves. So I'm excited about that. Thank you.
Trails. And I actually want to thank all the citizens.
So thank you for the presentation. So I have to ask...
As the plan's implemented, we would then explore which options. I mean, River Trail, Bedford, Skyline, so additional trails on Skyline, Fresno, and what's the other one? Eagle. And residents have approached both them and us, and it causes frustration on both sides. They're like,
1939 went into effect January 1st, 2023, and it does not apply to contributing, and I'll go over that in the next couple of slides. The additional options that also touch on that on the next slide. Option 3 would be for staff to prepare a conflict of interest memo solely based on the agencies that are listed, that staff would track the conflict of interest and prepare the memo. As I mentioned, that we are going into a contract with. So here's a snippet from a previous agenda where it demonstrates that we can highlight the agency. Sources. It changes the process for the purchasing division. As I mentioned, the purchasing division will be providing the form to the bidder and then providing the city.
Cash contributions, and potentially it wouldn't, or would it?
I know where you're going in first.
I fully understand that.
But yes,
and
it
I'm
would.
and I'm
Yes,
not-
it would.
Okay, that makes me feel better. Understand that, and I'm just trying to point out a place where it might have made
a permit, and it's in one list. So that's the way that RCTs, and really it's just copying the information that's already there, putting it in the memo.
Is this date on, That's $250 very high and in conflict. So I can just see a Control F searcher. It will be seen as an oversight, a clerical error. We missed it. Not because I want to give staff more work, but because to create, a function on an Excel spreadsheet that will.
Breeding ground for transportation contractors to just give tons of money. And so I do like keeping politicians honest. My reality is since being elected, I haven't accepted money from your campaign year that you started raising funds. So just on that knowledge, if it was a problem, I would be with Wes on option 3, but because really no one around here is raising money, I'm kind of on option.
Ms. Edwards, maybe you could provide some clarity on this. One of the things that 39, it's only for entities that are coming before us for a license.
Prizes, any of that nature would include it, but your labor would be exempt.
Okay. I have to do this, and I don't know how much extra work it would create for them. Ms. Edwards, do you have an?
There's a tendency to look in the mirror, right, when we make decisions. But and regardless of us, like I said, I don't think.
All right, we're good or we're not good. But it would be available as well to our residents.
Yeah, and it also all of a sudden they show up and stand right there and they oppose a project. You have to immediately recuse yourself because that person gave you $250.
Can we?
We're not going to come back later and start complaining about it, just so you know. So it's really better for you to just let us know which one you want.
So, I was really one quick. One thing we're ensuring transparency amongst the residents. So that's fine with me. And Mr. Steiner?
Yeah, Sylvia, just for clarification, is the lift a big deal? You said it was limited, but I wasn't sure what you meant by that.
For option 3 listed in the recommended actions.
Okay, so limited not being a big lift.
Correct.
Okay, I'm good with that then.
Okay. Councilmember Speak, this is your item. Do you want to make a alternate motion?
We don't have to make. I think
Yeah,
it's
we
a
just need
recommendation.
direction.
Correct? Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm for. I'll reiterate. I'm for option 3.
I'm fine with that.
Okay. It looks like option 3 it is.
Okay, we will work on those memos for the next meeting for you guys.
Thank you for bringing it up.
Thank you.
I'm fine with option 3.
I'll bring you guys snacks next week.
I'm agnostic. Doesn't matter to me. I'm not worried about it. Utility Authority 2023 Water Revenue Refunding Bonds.
For a refinancing, they're considered callable now. This refinancing will yield a lower interest rate with estimated savings of about $2.1 million over the life of the bonds, which is about $240,000 per fiscal year through 2032. So the original bonds were issued in 2012. Your approval tonight will give us the authority to move forward at such time when those rates are more favorable. So if those interest rates start creeping up, then we'll hold off a little bit until.
Okay. With that, then I will make a motion.
I'll second.
I'd like to do is to first of all say to you that last night people that went into these housing units were straight from our streets long term. It's looking, the Shelter Navigation Center is looking so great. All of the pieces are achievements that we want to celebrate. And then also, of course, we're so excited to have the grand opening ceremony. And so this is really let's talk about why we're here tonight, and that is there was a request that we go to the community, and we actually launched it across all of our communication channels through social media a number of times. And we received a total of 77 responses of suggested names for the shelter. And what staff did was work with Mercy House to look at all of the different top list of 5 to present to your council that best met really names that were the top 5 names that are being presented to you. I do want to acknowledge some really important members of our Homeless Strategic Plan Working Group. And if what I'd like to present to you is what staff is recommending to you, but please know that you are obviously free.
Spending so much time, energy, blood, sweat, tears in this that
Harrison Hope Center is great.
Some of the other elected officials that are in neighboring cities, as well as representatives from like Roth's office and
effort. We're all, doing our part. We really are, but it would not have happened without your leadership. So you're amazing. Thank you.
Thank you, but it is about all of the city departments and our contracted partners in the community. It's a huge, the county.
It was built before Corona was a town, a city. So when the founders came, the Harrison House. So it's kind of cool that
Your first house.
the first house and the best house will now be the Harrison House.
I was leaning towards both of them that had the word hope in it because I think that is me. I also vote for that. But my one question is do you have an idea?
West, Central, and East. So we're finishing up those logistics and some other details so that we make sure we have everything in place. But early June is the goal.
So I do want to give a shout out quickly to staff on no less than 5 days a week. The Harrison finally get the last piece open up. So see things that we had no idea needed to be seen and putting things together that we had no idea needed to be put together. And then somehow going out and finding millions of dollars of other people's money to get it all done. So hats off again. And I think, comments? No, I asked for comments.
Mayor,
Okay.
Sorry, we do have two speakers that want to speak on that.
The rest of Riverside County, nobody came close. Corona, it was just almost unbelievable. So just wanted to add.
Forgot to tell everyone earlier, completely unrelated, I get to this subject. Her friends would show up in the city park and bring in some pizzas or some trays of lasagna or something and try to feed people. You remember that? Of course, because you organized it. And now we've progressed to this. I remember when that building was used as an overflow dump for people from Orange County.
Okay, moving on to legislative matters. There are none. Boards and commissions, reports from city council commissioners, and staff. 4.09 acres located at 2895 South Main Street within Balbus Construction, Inc. Ms. Edwards, are there any speaker cards from the public? 002 to reduce the minimum front yard setback required by section located at 2895 South Main Street within the quasi-public designation of the Mountain Gate Specific Plan. Applicant Joseph Balbus, Balbus Construction, Inc. Ms. Edwards, are there any speaker cards from the public?
Mayor, we do not have any speaker cards.
Okay.
Of over $91 million, we're paying $91 million in debt service. Sounds great, where you would prioritize funding, or 60% of all funding for transportation projects would be prioritized in low income. And the other one was additional membership of labor, youth, and schools in commissions, transportation commissions, and we opposed that. We think we actually got it killed. And then lastly, AB 1385, another the transportation agencies can tax an additional 1%. They have the ability to ask voters to tax for additional 1%. That's making its way through the legislature. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Speak. Having a night up here, let me just tell you. Next, we have an update from Vice Mayor Tom Richins on the Riverside County Habitat Conservation Agency, RCHCA, meeting of May 11th, 2023.
Thank you, Mayor. We, sorry about that. Us RCHCA people met in the city of Murrieta. We talked about a few things. Number one, the
Read a lot.
And
They make recreation.
I got to report this stuff. This is the Lord's work. So, clearly I'm the right person for this job. Lord's work.
This is definitely not the Lord's work, sir.
I can't stop laughing. So, anyhow, rats before. And they're now gonna just pull hairs from the rats. And the Lord is happy. So, last but not least, I was proud to sit in the room as they announced the Corona Boy Scout troop. They went out to the Lake Matthews area and helped out with the burrowing.
Moving on to city attorney reports and comments. Ms. Raymond, do you have any comments?
Community to attend the Corona Job Fair from 9 a.m. to 12 noon at the communities. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, do any of my colleagues want to make any comments?
I will not be talking about the Lord's work. I want to, let's see, first of all, I want to say thank you to staff and more importantly to the folks that volunteered to be part of the panel and all of the folks that participated in the Asian American Pacific Islander community conversation. Though I had to skip out early and I missed the mayor wishing death upon me, being eaten by something. I found out afterward, they asked me if he was mad at me because AB 205, which is the income-based baseline charge for utilities. And this will come in front of the CPUC sometime next year. So I'll keep letting those. And what that is the state legislature snuck in a bill at the last minute that says that they wanted the CPUC to evaluate this new proposal that's already been pushed to the CPUC. Will be hearings on it sometime next $, up to $180, depending on how much as a base rate before you get charged for any electricity. All based on income. All the utilities have already submitted their arguments for this, and so when it comes back in front, I would assume that we're going to come back to our group here and we'll talk about it. And lastly, in order to make sure kill everybody's mood, there'll be a full closure of the eastbound 91 on Saturday night. And the contractor over the past month to really fine tune this to get it down to 6 hours. We were trying to get it where there would at least be one lane open. However, they will have signage on and before Green River, directing people onto Palisades to direct them, trying to limit the traffic there. So I just want to make sure, warn everybody. I'll put another couple of postings out. The city should put something out too, that the 91 eastbound will completely be closed for 6 hours on Saturday. And that's it. Thanks.
Nothing from me.
I think I'm good.
Okay. All right. Well, it looks like I have no comments either. It looks like we're going to adjourn this meeting, and the next meeting of the council is going to be Wednesday, June 7th, 2023. This meeting is adjourned.